The Florida Gators may have missed out on Adrian Maddox, but they're right back in the mix for another transfer portal DB.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever this in the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Thursday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. And don't forget that today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel. So from big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And like I mentioned, the Florida Gators may have missed out on Adrian Maddox. If you haven't been caught up, shame on you for not being an everydayer. But Adrian Maddox, UAB safety, on Sunday night committed to Florida. Then on Tuesday committed to Georgia. And yeah, now that's a thing. But the Florida Gators have quickly moved on and are now looking at their next transfer portal DB that they are targeting. And it is Bishop Fitzgerald, a 6 foot, 195 pound safety from NC State. And he's, again, defensive back, right? That's how we're going to classify these guys. Because you look at Bishop Fitzgerald's career snaps, which, by the way, he was a JUCO kid from Coffeyville, which notable community college, notable JUCO. But from Coffeyville, went to NC State. He's got 1 year left of eligibility technically. However, given the Diego Pavia ruling, maybe there's another year of eligibility or another 2 years of eligibility. It's just really weird right now, right? Like, that's just all I can say. I know people are going to go, 1 year, 2 year, all that. It's weird. Who knows how much eligibility people have? But we can say that, hey, Bishop Fitzgerald will have at least 1 more year of eligibility. Their full-time starter for the past 2 seasons at NC State. He went in, immediately became a starter, never let it go there. And you look at his snaps, he's played just under 1,300 career snaps. He's played 252 of them in the nickel, 342 of them as a box safety, which, by the way, when you see, or as in the box is what we'll say, when you see box on PFF, if you look at that, then that will say either box safety, linebacker, and a lot of times the nickel will be listed as playing the box, okay? So there's that, which I guess we could say 252 in the slot, 342 as the box alignment. So roughly, 604 just in the box, we'll say. Free safety, he's played 654 snaps there. So the overwhelming majority of his snaps, or the majority of his snaps, have come from the free safety spot. He is someone with versatility to play both safety spots, and he is someone who has the ability to play in the nickel. And again, 6 foot, 195 pounds is not big. He's not going to be lining up out wide. I would be hard-pressed to find both he and Bryce Thornton on the field at the same time at safety. They'd probably be playing similar roles where Bryce Thornton comes down into the box a lot with Jordan Castell as the deep safety. So that would be the expectation I would have of if Bishop Fitzgerald were a Florida Gator. I think that primarily, I think they're looking at him to play the nickel, but also I could see them looking at him and saying, you know what? You're going to be competing for box safety snaps. Okay? That's going to be your job. I get it, right? It makes sense to me. Like I've been saying, if you're going to bring in a DB, it needs to be someone who can play multiple roles. Bishop Fitzgerald, he could play both safety spots. Again, he hasn't, or I don't think he will play free safety, but he can play free safety for the Florida Gators, or deep safety, can play in the nickel, can play as a box safety. So he can do it all. I think that the likelihood would be that he's playing nickel and box safety. I think those would be the more likely spots there. Free safety, I would have liked to bring in someone that I think is a better shot at free safety to compete with Jordan Castell. think he could benefit from just a little bit of pushing there. But hey, maybe that'll be Hilton Stubbs. Maybe that'll be Gregory Smith III. Who knows? But this is, again, addressing the star spot while having a versatile player. That's always been what they've been looking to do. Every DB that they've brought in for visits, every DB that they've talked to seriously has been he could play the nickel and other spots in the secondary. Zechariah Poyser, play the nickel, other spots in the secondary. Adrian Maddox, play the nickel, other spots in the secondary. Bishop Fitzgerald, play the nickel, other spots in the secondary. And one of the differences here from Zechariah Poyser or from Adrian Maddox is that when you look at Bishop Fitzgerald, you're looking at a power 4 player with power 4 experience. Zechariah Poyser is Jacksonville State. Adrian Maddox is UAB. Bishop Fitzgerald at NC State, ACC, basically Group of 5, right? But the ACC, power 4 experience, okay? And I will also say this. There are certain players or certain coaches that we look at and we say, hey, if this coach wants you, if this coach offers you a scholarship, if this coach is recruiting you and genuinely wants you to be a part of their roster, then I think that you're a good football player, right? If Brian Hartline is recruiting receivers, I think you're a good receiver. Simple as that, right? If Iowa is recruiting you on the offensive line, you're probably a pretty good offensive lineman. And there are some positions that have those kinds of, like, it's not just like one coach in the country, but one coach that does have that respect, for me at least, when we talk about if this coach wants you, then I think you're a good football player, is Doug Belk. Doug Belk is a name that we've talked about on Locked On Gators for a few years. When Billy Napier got hired, Doug Belk was a name that I said the Florida Gators should go get him and be their defensive coordinator, because at the time, he was the defensive coordinator at Houston. So Doug Belk is a name that when Billy Napier got hired, I was like, hey, Doug Belk should be a defensive coordinator candidate. Obviously, that didn't happen. Patrick Toney got hired. But then when Patrick Toney left, what did I do? Spin the block. Doug Belk should be a defensive coordinator candidate. All right? Similar defensive system. He's really good at what he does, but he is right now the defensive backs coach with USC. And he is offering Bishop Fitzgerald. And again, Doug Belk is one of those coaches that has that level of respect for me where I say, if you want a guy in your secondary, I think he's a good football player. I don't care about my opinion, your opinion, watching, listening, whatever it may be. If Doug Belk wants you in the secondary, I think you're a good football player. Simple as that, which I will say I think Bishop Fitzgerald, pretty good overall. But also, again, if Doug Belk wants you, I think you're good at your job. And it's as simple as that. I think that Bishop Fitzgerald, which, by the way, does have a scholarship offer from the Florida Gators, and a visit is trying to get set up between them. So Doug Belk wants you, Florida pursuing you. If you become a Florida Gator, I'll be pretty happy with it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie about it at all. We are going to talk about the coaches' contracts that are expiring at the end of the month, because that does happen January 31st. We got quite a few contracts expiring. We'll talk about those when we get back with Locked On Gators. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. And it's great. There's even a little, I guess we'll call it an assessment tool, where they'll just post expenses that you have. They'll post subscriptions that you're paying for, and they'll be like, hey, is this something you want to keep? Are you sure? You want to get rid of this? And they go through it. It's not just like, oh, these are my subscriptions. Cool. They ask you, they're like, hey, do you want to keep this? Is this a thing? And don't forget, they can cancel it for you and try to get you some of your money back. Just saying. You might have subscriptions you don't even know you're paying for. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. Are you ready to be upset? because I feel like you're ready to be upset, right? The Florida Gators have 5 coaches with contracts expiring at the end of January. So January 31st is the last day. Couple notes about this. You may not hear about a coach being extended. Last year, we didn't hear about a coach being extended until February 7th, I think it was, when we found out the coaches that did get extended. Rob Sale was one of those coaches, but 1-year extension. So Rob Sale, one of the coaches whose contract's expiring here. But there are 5 coaches with contracts expiring at the end of January. And we're going to go through all of them. And I'll let you know what I think, right? First off, and we're going just in position order. So QB, running back, all that stuff. Running backs, Jabbar Jalouk, keep him. I get there are some people who are like, oh, he doesn't bring in the 5-star recruit. You think I give a damn about the 5-star recruits at running back? With the work that Jabbar Jalouk has done? You think I give a damn about that? No, I'm good. I think that he's just been phenomenal as far as building that running back room. The fact that he was at Louisiana and in 1 year, this is something I'm always going to bring up. The fact that he was at Louisiana and in 1 year had 3 running backs that ended up going to the NFL. I'm sold. And then you look at what he's done, right? He got Montrell Johnson to Louisiana. And Montrell Johnson, regardless of how you feel about him or how I feel about him, he's going to be on an NFL roster in a couple months. We'll see how long he stays. I think he's got a pretty decent chance of sticking. But he's going to be on the NFL roster in a couple months. That's just a fact. Get over it. All right? And the way that he's built rosters, great. And again, 3 running backs on Louisiana at once. Elijah Mitchell, Trey Ragas, and Raymond Calais. 3 running backs that went on to the NFL. Of course, 2 of them didn't find much success, but you got 3 running backs at the same time, all into the NFL from the group of 5, from the Sun Belt. That's impressive, right? And then you look at the recruiting jobs that they've done. Jaden Ball, who was not being recruited heavily as a running back, right? Came in, contributed right away. Pretty good job, right? Jacoby Jackson was not a super high valued JUCO running back, right? Hell of a year in 2024. Right? Pretty damn good. So as far as Jabbar Jalouk, he should stay. Wide receivers coach, Billy Gonzalez. I'm good on that. I know that people get upset every time I say that. I have nothing but the absolute utmost respect for Billy Gonzalez. I am not being mean or malicious at all when I say this. I am just saying that I think you could do better at receiver at the University of Florida nowadays. I think that, and I want to put this out there as well, because I know everybody's going to be in the comments like, you don't get Dallas Wilson, Vernell Brown, this, that. I promise you get all of them without Billy Gonzalez. It's fine. He is not the reason that they win. I don't care what anybody's going to say about what they read in an article from a coach telling a reporter this. I don't care. Okay. Just want to throw that out there. I think you could do better at wide receiver. I need needle movers. Okay. Needle movers only. And so I think you could use a better wide receivers coach there. And here's the thing too. If he comes back, I'm not going to be mad. I just think you can upgrade. Co-offensive coordinator / offensive line coach, Rob Sale, out. Look, I think that they have done a decent job of developing the offensive line. I think they've got the unit to play together this year. I personally don't know how much of it was Rob Sale or Jonathan DeCoster. Line in 2022 wasn't great. AR made that line look a lot better than it really was. Line in 2023, god-awful, right? Offensive line in 2024 looked better. Again, I will say this. DJ Lagway helped make that line look better than they really were, similar to the way that Anthony Richardson helped make that line look better than they really were. That's not to diminish anything that the line has done. That's just saying that I do think that they've been helped with the mobile quarterbacks. Like we'll look at the 2022 numbers, and Anthony Richardson was pressured 142 times, sacked 13 of them. 9.2% of pressures became sacks. Okay? You look at 2023, and Graham Mertz is pressured 120 times. Okay? So 20 less times. However, Anthony Richardson sacked 13 times. Graham Mertz sacked 28 times. 23.3%, a 14.1% jump there, because Graham Mertz couldn't escape the way that Anthony Richardson could. Anthony Richardson was pressured more. By the way, Graham, of course, did not finish the season in 2023, got hurt late in the year. But point remains, if you want to look at the season stats overall for 2023, they were pressured 5 less times. So there's that. They were sacked 21 more times because Max Brown ate 6 sacks as well, because he's going to do that. Then you look at 2024 and 120 pressures, 21 sacks. Still not great numbers, right? DJ Lagway took a lot of sacks. He was hampered for a little bit, but when he was healthy, he was making plays, extending plays. Offensive line has been pretty good. Guys have developed, right? Guys have gotten better. You look at the individuals, they've gotten better. But again, needle movers only. And I don't think Rob Sale is a needle mover on the recruiting trail or on the field. And I've been saying for a while, reading who is the primary recruiter for a lot of guys, it's Jonathan DeCoster. He's been listed as the primary recruiter for most of the offensive linemen that the Florida Gators got or had a legitimate chance at getting. To me, that just reads like they're planning on moving on. I'm not even saying they should or shouldn't at that point. I'm saying that reads like they're moving on because the guy that would stay is the one that's listed as the primary for everyone. So that's how I feel about that one. Edge group, Mike Peterson, the only defensive coach with a contract expiring at the end of this month. I've been pretty vocal about this. I'm good. I'm all right. You can move on from Mike P. I need needle movers only. And frankly, I just don't think he is one, right? And we talked about this a lot where people can bring up the edge play and the pressures and the sacks all you want, but your best pass rusher is a defensive tackle, right? Your second best pass rusher was a full-time down defensive lineman in Tyreek Sapp. George Gumbs, 26 pressures, sure. Then Cam James. Then Cam Jackson, 15. Then Shamar. Then TJ Searcy. One of your starting Jack linebackers had 8 pressures this season. It's Jack Pyburn. Get it? Jack. But I don't know. I need to see it with Mike P. And I think that we've gone too far into this tenure to accept that. You know, like I said the other day, coaching needs to catch up to the roster. This is a really good roster. Coaching needs to catch up to the roster. Do that. Get needle movers. And the final coach with a contract expiring is strength and conditioning coach Tyler Miles. And I have always told you guys, I don't care if I'm right. I don't care if I'm wrong. I'm going to be right. I'm going to be wrong. That's going to happen for a long time. It's already happened a bunch of times on both sides. It's going to continue happening. As long as I'm being honest, that's all that matters to me, right? Like if I can look at myself and I was like, you know what, I really believed what I said there, then I'm fine with it. Tyler Miles, I don't have an opinion of. I don't. He's been at the position for less than a year. He is spent most of the time using the program that Craig Fitzgerald? Is that his name? The guy that came over and then went to Boston College. He's using the program that he built. And so it's tough. And as far as injuries, I don't know why injuries happened, what were strength conditioning injuries and what just happened. Devin Moore got injured getting hit. I'm not going to call that a strength and conditioning injury, right? So stuff like that, I don't know if I have an opinion on. I just can't say that I do. But if he's brought back, great. If he's not, great. As long as you upgrade if you don't bring him back. That's all I need. Upgrades. But for the Florida Gators, probably going to have a couple guys change spots. Could be great for the Florida Gators. Hopefully will be. Last year, basically every position coach you hired, positions improved significantly, right? Basically all those positions got significantly better. hopefully the same happens for the 2025 season. We are going to flip to basketball for the rest of this show when we get back with Locked On Gators. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. To wrap up today's show, we're going to talk about the basketball team. This is a thing that I've been wanting to say, hey, we should talk more basketball. I want to cover more basketball. So we're covering more basketball. And we are going live after most SEC games for the Gators this season. For those of you who didn't watch the game on Tuesday night or didn't watch the post-game show on Tuesday night, the Florida Gators beat the crap out of the number 1 ranked Tennessee Volunteers on Tuesday night. Beat the crap out of them by 30 points. An absolute whooping. My mom wasn't even alive the last time that a number 1 team got beat that bad. Okay? My mom wasn't even born yet when that happened. That's how long we're talking. Okay? Been a while. And this was just one of the showings that kind of tells you what this team is capable of, right? Because for so much of what we've talked about with this team, and by the way, the job that Todd Golden has done building this roster, Todd Golden and his coaching staff have done building this roster. We've been talking about, he's building them to be a championship team his way, right? I'm not going to harp too much on the analytical aspect, other than saying we'll talk about the 4 factors. Some people were pretty interested in that when we talked about it on Tuesday night, so we'll talk about the 4 factors. But the way that he's been building the team to win his way is finally coming to fruition. You're finally getting that. Where if most of this team stays healthy, you're going to be pretty good, right? I think front court especially needs to stay healthy. Like, if you had Micah Handlogton, imagine having Micah Handlogton, Alex Condon, and Ruben Chinyelu all playing significant minutes. Sam Alexis in there as well. Talking about a really good team, okay? So this team has been built. Like, the potential of this team is being shown here against the number 1 team in the country after a bad game against Kentucky. Now you're seeing what this team is capable of. And this team is capable of being great. You look at the KenPom rankings, Florida, number 5 in the country, behind only Duke, Auburn, Houston, and Iowa State. Okay? Barely behind Iowa State at that as well. There's a small gap between Duke, Auburn, Houston, and then the next teams. But yeah, Florida barely behind Iowa State, and they are now barely ahead of Tennessee after the ass whooping that they put on. Also, Florida's luck rating down. It's actually a bad luck rating, and they're still 14-1, 5th best ranked team on KenPom. Look, the SEC looks like a gauntlet this year. I will say that. You got in the top 25 of KenPom, you got Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, a lot. Kentucky, 7. I stopped counting. You got 7 teams in there from the SEC in the top 25. It's a lot. And the Florida Gators, again, have been built to be great. And not just in conference, out of conference, just built to be a great team. You look at the 4 factors, which are effective field goal percentage, turnover percentage, offensive rebound percentage, and free throw attempt per field goal attempt. And Florida, the theory is that if you win all those areas, you're going to win a lot of games. Like, you're going to be a really good team there. Which for Florida right now, effective field goal percentage, 54.5%. Effective field goal percentage essentially counts 3-pointers. They weight 3-pointers differently than 2-pointers. Okay? 3-pointers count as 1.5 field goals attempted. Make sense? Or 1.5 field goals made. Make sense? Great. So effective field goal percentage, 54.5% for Florida, 56th best in the country, but defensively, 42.6%, 5th best in the country. That's one area of defense they've been really good at, which you wouldn't believe if you watched the Kentucky game. We'll talk about the conference numbers after. Turnover percentage, Florida's at 15.3% this season, which is roughly where they were last year. Effective field goal percentage is up 3 points. But turnover percentage, 50th in the country. Turnover percentage forced, which is basically your takeaways, 18.3%. Not a good number, by the way. That's very middle of the pack nationwide. Offensive rebound percentage, Florida's the fourth best team in the country at 41.5% offensive rebounding percentage. They were eighth last year, so considerably better this year. Free throw attempts per field goal attempt, 32.3. Bad. That's the one area of the four factors. It is the least weighted area of the four factors, but that's the one area of the four factors where they haven't been good. Tempo, the efficiency, not the tempo. The efficiency, third most efficient offense in the country. Third. Defense, 16. In any sport, you tell me you're going to be top 3 in one category and top 16 in another, and I'm going to tell you that's a championship caliber team, right? In any sport. You tell me, hey, in baseball, you've got the third best offense, you score the third most runs, you've got the 16th best pitching staff. I'm going to say, okay, that's a championship caliber team. Football, you got the third best offense, or better yet, you got the 16th best offense with the third best defense. That's a championship caliber team. Even with crappy offense, championship caliber team. Any sport, you can be top 3 in one, top 16 in the other side of the ball. That's really good. Conference-wise, Florida gets fifth in the conference in effective field goal percentage, 53.9% in conference play. Turnover percentage drops a little bit from 15.3 to 15%. Turnover percentage, by the way, or turnover forced percentage, by the way, falls off a cliff. 6%. It gets way worse. It's horrible. Offensive rebounding percentage, Florida gets better offensive rebounding in the conference. Tennessee game definitely helped you. And then free throws attempted per field goal attempt, it's significantly better. Part of that being probably the Kentucky game where they shot 35 free throws. Helps you out there. But this team has been built to analytically succeed, and it's just trusting the analytics, trusting the process in the purest form. And yeah, there's going to be games where they miss threes and it just doesn't work out, right? We saw that against Kentucky. They were missing threes and free throws. They were missing key parts that they're supposed to be able to do, and they didn't execute properly. But this team is built to execute properly on a consistent level. And that's really important for the Florida Gators to be able to make this run where they need to make this run. And they're still figuring some things out, right? You could tell watching the game, they're still trying to figure out exactly how they want to use the guards. Do they want to have Elijah Martin on ball more, Walter Clayton on ball more? What do they want to do? They're still trying to figure some things out. And they just beat the number one team in the country by 30 points. Still trying to figure it out. You're as good as you are. Yeah, I'm sold. This is a damn good team. FanDuel, the cash out on my Florida to make the Final Four that I place, I will pull it up to tell you exactly when I placed that bet. I bet on October 31st, Florida to reach the Final Four and Florida to win the national championship. Okay? The cash out on that has climbed a lot. That's way more likely to happen now, right? Some of us knew. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free right in the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow, talk more Florida Gators football. Until then, I am Brandon Olsen. This is Locked On Gators. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all next time.